Welcome to The Decision from Nashville EO, where you will hear the rest of the story after tough decisions were made by entrepreneurs who faced adversity and lived to tell about it.
Welcome to The Decision, the podcast by EO Nashville, where we talk about the decisions that entrepreneurs make in the heat of battle, growing businesses, salvaging businesses, dealing with the trauma that comes along with running a business. And with me today, as always, my partner in crime, Mr. Robert Hartline.
Good to be here.
Thank you, as always. And today with us is Jennifer Ghanem.
Hello.
Jennifer, appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me.
Now, we first met when you initially joined EO.
Yep, that was right. I still remember when you came to my office and you sat on the couch and we had the interview.
That's right. Are you glad you made the decision?
Oh, I mean, it's the best decision that I've ever made in my entrepreneurial career.
Tell me more about that.
I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and he runs a really big business, and he's, more money than he knows what to do with. And he's doing everything, and he's talking about A, B, C, and D. And I looked at him and I said, well, how do you know you're doing it right? And he just kind of looked at me and he goes, I don't. And I said, I do. And he said, why? And I said, because I have 8 brilliant people, or 7 brilliant people. I'm the 8th. I don't know if I'd classify myself as brilliant yet. But
I'll give you a pass there.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. But 7 really brilliant people who I bounce ideas off of. And I get that reverb that, like, yes, you're headed in the right direction. Or like, maybe consider this experience that I had. And then maybe it moves you in a different direction. So, yeah, that's how I know I'm doing it right. I mean, one other opinion is one, but when you have 7, you can kind of rely on that.
Yeah, and just hearing those experiences from people in different industries, it's always
from people way more successful than, me.
Yeah.
So far. I still have time.
So what was your first entrepreneurial journey?
So my parents were Lebanese and were immigrants. And so I've been watching the entrepreneurial journey without realizing that that's what I was watching since I was, 3 years old when we moved over from Beirut.
Wow.
And so, when you're an immigrant, you come over, you don't really speak the language. You don't have a degree that can translate. And so you do whatever it is that you need to do. And, my dad opened up a restaurant with a friend in downtown Nashville when, like, you didn't go downtown after 4:00, and throughout that whole time, they've opened and closed probably 20 stores, 20 restaurants.
What was the first one?
They're all called kebab gyros sort of restaurants because those were the only 2 English recognizable words that they knew how to say when they got here. But it's a Greek restaurant. My mom still has her flagship store that is down in the Metro Center area off of Rosa Parks.
I know that one. I've been there.
I was going to call it the Fountain Square area. And then I realized that the listeners and maybe some people in the room don't know what Fountain Square is.
Sometimes called, do I say it, the mistake by the lake?
Yeah. It was.
Yeah, it was not the hit that they hoped it to be.
No, and we're all waiting for the revamp. Like, one day they're going to make sense of this spot, but
it will happen.
Yes, it will happen. But so I've been watching that happen for a really long time. And then when it came time and I had an opportunity to open up my own law firm because we were breaking off a bigger firm, I called my dad and I was like, I don't know, Dad. I don't know if that's a good idea. Like, I have an infant. And he's like, go, Jenny, go. And I'm like, Dad, I don't know. And he's like, do it. No questions asked, just launch. And I was like, okay. So we first started a law firm and I was a partner in that law firm. And that's how I started my first business.
Mm.
Why I have more than one, I'm not really sure how I ended up here, but here I am.
Now, what was it like when you were on your own? Were you working with other people or?
So I started at first as a partner in a law firm, and there were 6 of us, and we decided to break off of a different firm downtown and start our own sports and entertainment firm because we had a sports and entertainment practice. So there were 6 of us to start. And now there were 4, but these 4 function, beautifully together. And we've been together for probably 12 years now as a firm.
Right.
But I started my own company, which is the Row Title and Escrow, and that is only mine. And that's where I would say I spend the majority of my focus and where I've sort of cut my entrepreneurial teeth, as I would say.
Right.
Yeah.
So most of your work is in title now.
Most of my work is in real estate and title. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Which has gotten interesting recently.
It has gotten very interesting. We're always on a roller coaster. Always. Never ends. And
You
it's
guys
on
had it so good.
We had it good.
You guys had it
We
so
had it good for
good.
5 minutes, okay? And
5 minutes? Are you
I was
kidding?
ready to really just sit back and I'm like, that's it. We're coasting. We're good for a minute. And then they push us off a cliff and see if we survive.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you guys were crushing it for such a long time, but to see things change so rapidly, and
Yes.
that's alarming and scary. It must be scary.
Oh, it's terrifying.
Yeah.
To know that, there are finite things that are outside of your control, squarely outside of your control, and there isn't anything that you can do about it.
Yeah.
So,
Well, has there been anything that because of this that it's changed the way you've worked that you wish you could have been working that way before? Kind of forced you to do something that maybe you hadn't done before?
well, I mean, I think that the biggest things that I've learned in my entrepreneurial journey is you can read every book and listen to every podcast and follow the rules to the letter. And you're still going to have that moment where you're like, you know what? Never mind. Just forget it. I don't want to do this anymore. You can do everything that everybody says that you're going to do, or says that you're supposed to do, and you can do it exactly right. And that's sort of my skill set is rule, execute. And you can do all of those things and then it still won't work. So,
Some of that your training in the law that makes you think that way?
oh gosh, that yes, for sure. And I tell people often the reason that I stopped litigating is because I could have the law on my side, period, end of story. Black letter law on my side. We walk into court, the judge does something completely different because that's the mood that they were in that day, or that's the equitable thing that they think that they should do.
Right.
And it doesn't matter what you've done to get to that point. You could have done everything exactly right and proven your case, and it's no longer in your control. So, and I didn't like that very much.
Right. And
So,
real estate's a different matter.
It's
right?
a completely different matter. Yeah. But
And so tell us a little bit more about how what you ran into recently and obviously we're in a different environment, right? It's like one of those
There you
things
go.
that happens from time to time in business. Everybody gets punched in the mouth.
yeah.
And interest rates go through the roof. And talk a little bit about how did you, and obviously you're in Forum.
I am in Forum. I've got 7 other brilliant Forum members, and we've had 2 recent additions probably within the past year or 2, but my Forum's been together for about 6 or 7 years now.
Yeah.
So.
And you realized I got a problem, and obviously you decided to present.
Houston, we have a big problem.
Yeah.
So as Robert was saying, in June of last year, I mean, we were all living the big life, right? Like the money and the closings and no problem. And I mean, there's a multiple offer situation on every house out there, 40 offers, 50 offers, $100,000 over list, sight unseen. It was a feeding frenzy. And there was a little bit of risk to that as far as the market implications are concerned. Like, hey guys, I'm not really sure that this is what our market needs or can sustain, but whatever. I'm getting the transactions over the finish line one by one.
Right.
And we're doing great. I'd read all the books. I'd listened to all the podcasts. I'd done all the hiring techniques correctly. I had, offer the employees full health insurance benefits because it's the right thing to do. I was like, and check. And, get yourself a VA. I was like, and check, pay people a living wage so they only have to have one job. And I was like, man, I am killing this game. And that happened up, and we were doing great. And we're just starting to really grease the wheels and get a really nice well-oiled machine going. And then in September, the feds decided to start hiking interest rates at an exponential rate. It not historically like measurable, like just huge jumps at a time trying to stop the inflation. And that brought every real estate transaction that you had to a screeching halt. So you're going from, when I measured the revenue, we were down 80% revenue in November. And when I took a look at those financials, I kind of looked at my team and I said, hey guys. And they were like, yeah. And I said, I can break even in perpetuity, but I cannot lose money at this rate every month and stay open longer than 90 days. And so that's when I really had that like, oh no, like, what are we going to do moment? And I know that everybody was in the same boat in the real estate industry because everyone had hired as much people as they possibly could to kind of deal with the volume. And then the volume just goes away overnight. When I tell you they pushed us off a cliff with the real estate people, they always do it. And they're like, let's see if they survive. But yeah, we just got shoved off a cliff. And I had that moment where I was like, this is mission critical.
How did you feel at that point when you knew that you had, 90 days runway?
90 days, maybe. I felt completely defeated. Like, I had dealt with every upturn and every downturn, and I'd managed to like survive and kind of keep the doors open and keep everybody employed. And I'd done all the right things, read the books, put in the profit share, put in the plans, all the things I was supposed to do. And none of it was working and none of it was going to work. And I literally was like, you know what? Just never mind. Like, I give up. I'm so tired of fighting this fight. I'm over it because this is something that I didn't do. This is outside of my control. And then people say like, you read the book, right? Increase the top line revenue. Like, no problem. Just get creative. And I'm like, I don't have that fight left in me right now. Like my soul is defeated at this point. I just didn't have it. But you manage to find that like little bit of fight that you've got left and you take it to your core. So
what did you get coached through your presentation?
So it wasn't actually a planned presentation because we calendar our presentations throughout the year. And this, I'm not kidding you, this happened so quickly that I barely even had time to call them and say, hey, I have an emergency and I need you. So we always have little bitty, we have some time allocated during our forum meetings for, 25-minute or 40-minute like emergency. And so that's when I said, I kind of have an emergency. And I presented at the very next forum meeting. I kind of took it to the table because there wasn't really a lot of preparation involved, right? It was just like.
Did you have many experience shares or someone with the same situation?
Yes. Some people were, I don't know that they necessarily had the experience of going down 80% in revenue.
Yeah. This is something like, this is something that you just never expect.
Huge number, But, I have some really brilliant financial minds in my forum and people who are in the real estate sector. And so they kind of all understood and the sound advice that they gave me, because the entrepreneurial advice is kind of the same, right? You got to act and you got to act quickly and you've got to look and you've got to make some hard decisions. That's what everyone's going to tell you to do. And so the experience shares were around that. And the interesting thing is when we got finished with that meeting, they said, do you have what you need? And I said, yeah, but I don't want what you guys told me at all. I don't want to do it. I don't have any interest in doing it. Like,
what was the feedback they were giving you that you didn't want to do?
You just have to cut people. Your people is your top line payroll, top line, that's your biggest expense. You're running at what most people run at 40 to 70% payroll.
So what's the other alternative?
The other alternative is I sort of took a blended approach, right? So you kind of bring your own thing to the table, which is I really love my people and I've spent a lot of time and energy into building everybody and getting us all collectively where we need to be. And I don't want to let anybody go. So I sort of said to my first like upper level management team, I said, I have got to let this person go and I don't know what else to do. And they were like, oh, that's really sad. And they kind of walked out. And then within 2 hours, they had like circled back and walked into my office and they're like, is there anything that we can do to make sure that that doesn't happen? And I said, I don't know, but I don't see how that's going to happen. So I sat back and I marinated for a minute and I told another one of my leadership members, like, this is what's going on. And she goes, oh no. And I said, yeah. And then she goes, you know what? And I said, what? And she said, stop paying me. And I said, what do you mean? And she goes, for December, stop paying me for December. I need the month off. I am married. I don't have to, it doesn't have to happen. So I'll suspend my pay for December. And I was like, okay, well, that gets us a little bit of the way. And then I called the person that I was going to have to let go. And I said, would you be willing to work part-time for me for the foreseeable future? And she said, yeah, actually I would. And I was like, okay, great. So now we're adding a little bit more money into the pot to like get us by so we don't have to fire anybody. And then I called my whole team and I said, I hate to tell you this, but I have to cancel Christmas. You know, I can't do holiday bonuses this year, but if you just stick with me, I promise that I will distribute that out just as soon as I can. And they were like, don't even think about it. Don't even worry about it. We're done here. So the lesson that I learned was if you give people a say in their own fate, you would be really surprised what comes back to you from that. It was really remarkable. I mean, it still touches me now.
Now, were you able to make up the difference? What happened after December?
Sure. So I called my banker and I said, I have an emergency. And he said, what's the emergency? I said, I need money and I need money right now. And he goes, I'll have some money for you. And I said, thank you. And so they came over with a line of credit within 3 or 4 days. And I was like, this is perfect. So I drew on the line of credit, left the money in, you know, that for the payroll savings and the holiday bonus savings. And then I had the money that I needed in the line of credit. And we kind of hobbled along until March. And in March, boom, market recovers. Just fine, perfectly fine within 3 months. So,
Wow.
yeah.
And I guess, you know, people have to live their lives, which involves buying and selling real estate, right? And
Yeah.
people just became used to it, I guess.
That's
at that
right.
point.
That's exactly right.
The shock went away.
Mm-hmm. Yep. The shock went away. And now the interest rates are starting to kind of tick down again. And so, you know, things are starting to loosen up a little bit, which is better. But that was the interesting thing is I was like, this is it. This is how we go down. This is how I shut my doors, you know? And I thought, all right, well, I'm going to give myself 6 months and that's it. And then we only took 3 months. And all people had to do was like palate and get used to the new interest rate and understand that that's just what it was and that it wasn't bad. It was 6. 6 is what got everybody to stop, you know?
Well, Jennifer, I'm curious, who was the Jennifer before EO?
Oh, that Jennifer did not have any creativity at all. You know, nobody teaches a lawyer how to run a company. Nobody teaches a lawyer how to run a business. They teach us how to practice law, how to capture hours, how to bring in big producing clients so that you can sit in your chair and work and die by the billable hour. That's what lawyers, and those lawyers open firms. And then they run the firm like a firm instead of like a company. And that's what I was taught how to do. So I kind of sat in my chair and that's what I was learning how to do. And then I listened to the Tim Ferriss podcast one day and it was like somebody just powered my brain on. I was like, whew, what is this? And from that moment on, I realized that I was only talking to not only lawyers, but only real estate lawyers. And I was like, there has got to be a bigger world out here for me. And so I started to look around, listen to different people, started listening to the tech people and the marketing people. And I felt so invigorated. And I was like, I've got to be in a room with people who can help my creativity. And that's when I joined EO. And I started thinking like a business person.
How long have you been in EO?
Almost 7 years now, I think.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So this new Jennifer, creative Jennifer that runs her enterprise, not like a firm.
Right.
What did you learn about this near-death experience with your firm? Like, how are you operating now, knowing that this is a possibility? Has it changed the way you do your business?
For sure. Yeah. I mean, our rainy day fund now is no longer just like a little bitty rainy day fund. Like, it has to be a huge rainy day fund in order to absorb a complete market fallout for 3 months. Yeah. And that's a huge number. And that number is still a goal. Like, I am not there yet. This day that I'm talking about was legitimately 12 months ago to the day. Yeah. This was not that long ago. So, get a really big nest egg, because you never know how bad it can get until that happens. So that's what my main practical piece of thing that piece of information that I'm taking right now is just like, save that actual hard cash.
And one of the things I learned in EO was, hey, you better have the conversation with your banker on a regular basis and kind of have that relationship.
Yeah.
Has that changed, or with your banker?
My banker is still the exact same human being that gave me that money that I needed a couple, 12 months ago. And he has been my banker for 15 years now.
I was going to say, it sounds like you had that squared away as well.
Not just, but if he goes anywhere else, I'm following him. I don't care where he is.
Right.
That level of loyalty, he was just like my safety net, and still is.
Yeah.
So that's a solid relationship that nobody will interfere with.
Yeah. And, I didn't have a line of credit for many years until I joined EO, and somebody mentioned that. And I thought, yeah, that's probably a pretty good idea, because you never know what's going to happen next. These little things that nobody tells us until we get into EO, and then get to hear these experiences from other people.
Yeah. The thing that I find really valuable about EO is like the nitty gritty of the conversation, because when you're talking, you're listening to everybody else. It's like, just go all in and do this and do that. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense. Like, give me a step-by-step manual. Should I get this line of credit? Should I put in the 401k plan? What percentage should my match be? How much money should I save? Those questions that you can get to on a granular level are really important to the success of your enterprise, as opposed to that high level, put it all on black. Don't worry. If you don't go all in, then you're not really committed. And I'm like, I don't know that that's always the best advice.
Where would you like to take your company now?
Well, having said what I just said, I did in fact just read 10X is greater than 2X by Dan Sullivan. And I facilitated the forum retreat that just happened. And they decided that they wanted that to be the theme of the retreat.
Okay. Yeah.
So we went through like a 10X is greater than 2X workbook. And I made them all read the book before they got there. I said, do not come to this unprepared. I cannot get you there in 2 days.
How did you, number one, we got to go back. How did you get
our forum to read the book, right?
Forum to read the book. Because we'll make the editor make this the first part of the podcast, because it's the most important thing ever.
Did you have to read it to some of the
Did you have pictures? Or?
No pictures. And I told him, I said, listen, if you don't want to do this the Jennifer Ghanem way, then maybe you don't have Jennifer Ghanem facilitate the retreat the next time. But you said you wanted me to do it.
Yeah.
This is the way that we're going to do it. And if you want to get the value out of this, then you need to come to the retreat with this workbook, having read or listened to this book. And I think everyone has like a healthy fear of me when I get in that spot.
Yeah.
Because we've been together for a long time.
They know you well enough.
They're like, best not get on the bad side for this one. And so, but yeah, I mean, and everybody came fully prepared. And like,
how long did they have to read it?
I gave him a month, I think.
Wow.
And when I saw somebody open up the book on the plane, I looked at them and I glared, and they said, I've only got 50 pages. And I said, you've got 3 hours.
Well, so what was the outcome? This is great because a lot of people are doing retreats. Mm-hmm. A lot of people are like, well, what do I want to do? And so one theory is to take them along a book reading expedition and have some ahas. What came out of that?
So many ahas. The theme of the retreat was like the 10X is easier than 2X. That's what I sent out a pre-retreat questionnaire. I said, what is it that you would like to see at this retreat? So that was another one of the catches. It's like, hey, this wasn't my idea. This was your idea. I'm just telling you what you told me to do.
Yeah.
So they can't argue with me about it. Right. I'm like, this was your idea. And not just, but when they got down there, I handed them all the retreat questionnaire that showed them that they had written 10X is greater than 2X. And I said, it's your idea, not mine. I'm just doing what you told me to do. But setting your impossible goal in that exercise, I want to sell my company in 10 years for $50 million. Impossible, completely unachievable. When you're looking there, you're making way different decisions today so that, we have not recovered completely from that market fallout yet. I mean, we had some catch up. We had lines of credit to pay off that we're still paying off, which is okay. I'm fine to admit it. I don't care. I don't want anybody out there to feel alone or discouraged or like, they're having to go through something any different than the most successful CEO out there. So we're still recovering from that. And I need to make some new hires if I want to grow top line revenue. Well, guess what? There's not any money there. But I'm going to do it anyway, because that was my guide. So where can I shave? Where can I trim? Where can I tune the knob to come up with that extra 1 month of salary to get that 10X in 10 years or wherever it is? So it's just like kind of practicing that mindset and practicing that sort of level of decision making just to see how it works. If it works, great. If it doesn't work, that's okay. And we will pivot to something else.
How many people in your forum?
8.
So absolutely several people, because of that retreat experience, will achieve something significant. I mean,
oh yeah,
there's no doubt. And guess who gets to take all the credit?
Oh, I can't wait to tell. Hold on, wait for the word. I can't wait to tell Sherry Deutschman that her success is because of my retreat. Sherry's in my forum.
The power of retreat is so powerful because you get people away from their day-to-day routines around loving, high-vibey people, and you're cooking breakfast together, you're hearing a story, and you're like, yeah, that was the perfect time for me to hear that story. Yeah. Because I'm away from this and that. I can settle. I don't have my kids yelling at me. And then all of a sudden, it's like, that's when big decisions happen is when, when you travel, if you're on a plane to go somewhere, it is an altered state. It's another experience. You're hearing maybe different language, different sights, different sounds and you give your brain an opportunity to open up those neural pathways to go, all right, I'm going to latch on to this new idea and this new theory and go for it. That's exciting. Yeah.
It was really exciting. And, there were a couple of conversations where people would say that piece of advice that you gave to me was worth the cost of the ticket down here.
Yeah.
So did you go to Sherry's place in Mexico or did you go somewhere else?
No, I have been to Sherry's place in Mexico. Okay. And I'm going back to Sherry's place in Mexico next year.
I intend to go at some point.
Yeah, but this year we rented a big house in the Dominican Republic. And so we were all under one roof and they couldn't get away from me.
There is some magic to going out of the country. And anybody listening, my forum does that on a regular basis. The beautiful part is you typically want to go for a few days. And then when you're doing the work and you go out to have dinner and you're talking, those things that you presented on earlier or you learned earlier tend to bubble up, and the conversations that come out of those create more new neural pathways, new decisions get made, new ideas come about. You get to brainstorm. And so by the time you get back on the plane to come home, it's like, I can't wait to get home and run through a wall and do these new things. Isn't it great?
Oh, it's the best. I don't know how anyone could do it any other way and really stay present and dropped in to where you're at. When I go, and my business is different, and I don't, admonish anybody for doing it differently, but I rarely check my phone. I certainly don't go through my email because I've got this tunnel vision headspace that I need to stay focused on for 72 hours. It's not that long, and I just don't want anything to pull me out of that space.
Yeah, because you can get that one tip.
Right.
That could completely transform not only your business, but it could transform your life.
Yeah.
And totally propel yourself into a whole nother state that never was before. And I see that all the time with people that are paying a lot of money for a workshop, a retreat, or something, and they're on their phone. I'm like, dude, like you're around some ballers in this room and you're nerding out on your phone. What are you trying to, what do you want? Do you want that or this? We need to pick.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. And I think there were a lot of like transformative decisions that people made down there. It's a lot of transformative goals. And I am going to be that annoying forum retreat facilitator reminder within a couple of days where I'm like, hey, just wanted to remind you as you're setting your 2024 goals, like this is what your goals were for the retreat, just to sort of like remind everybody. And so kind of get them redirected in the right, path, just to at least start off the year.
Yeah. Do you guys do goal setting in your forum?
We do goal setting in our forum. We have a forum. We have a goal setting, designated person.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Do you look at the forum goals before every meeting, or?
You're supposed to. So we look at the forum goals during the meeting. We get fined if we do not hit our goals. We're supposed to. Oh yeah. No, it's miserable.
What's the fine?
You pay $20 per goal that you don't hit. So, and most people come with at least 4 goals.
Wow.
Yeah. Every time.
Every month.
Every month.
4 goals for the month.
Yeah.
Well, I like that.
Yeah.
We do
intense.
a yearly goal, but yeah.
We're intense. We also have a yearly goal.
Yeah.
So, and then
are these financial numbers as well?
For the goals?
Yeah.
No, not always.
Yeah.
Some people have like a personal physical goal, and some people have like a financial goal, and some people have a company mapping goal, which is like, I need to create this so that I can do that. And my goal is to at least create this by the end of the month or by the end of the year.
Yeah.
And then if you don't do that, you have to pay money.
Wow.
Well, that's what hits the entrepreneurs in the right spot, right? It's like, not only does it have to be a number, but it has to be a number that hurts.
Right. It's the shame of paying that money too.
Yeah, exactly.
So here's a question. I'm challenging on something.
Sure.
Because I've seen this in the past with forums or something. Imagine you have someone coming into your forum. Mm-hmm. They're interviewing. You got an open spot, right? Okay. Jennifer, I don't really need goals. I'm fine. I'm happy. I have everything I want. I don't really do goals. Do you want that person in your forum? I know it's a challenging question, but.
That seems like a really small way to judge somebody's character. It just seems like really unfair. Like, I'm sure that I've said something that kind of aggravated somebody once upon a time, and if they just ostracized me from a group because of something that I said. But I do understand what you're getting at. So I think it would depend. Like, globally, what does this person look like? Mm-hmm. And would that make sense in this environment? But I'm not going to choose not to. Yeah. They don't goal set. I'm not interested.
Yeah.
Because we do have some people who are like, well, I'm not really this type of goal setter. I'm this type of goal setter. Yeah. And we're like, all right, well, can we get you to expand just like a little bit past that kind of goal setter into a little uncomfortable spot? And then maybe you do that. And like, it's worked. And, those people are very, very valuable, loved members of our
program. Right. For me, I look at it like, I want people growing.
Sure.
If I can see them growing, like that's the fit for me.
Right.
It's when someone's not growing, I'm like, what am I learning? Because we only share when we're growing. We're never like, if we're not doing anything, we never share the not doing anything.
Yeah, my update, it's the same this month.
Yeah.
How are things? Good.
Yeah, fine.
Exactly
good.
The same. Yeah, great.
Could be better. So what kind of advice do you have for maybe an entrepreneur here in Nashville that doesn't belong to a community, hears about EO, maybe they join? What would you give them? What kind of experience share would you give them so they can maximize what it would be like to be in a great EO forum?
I would tell them, tell the truth, join your forum, tell the truth. You will know within 6 months whether or not that forum is the right fit for you. And if that forum is not the right fit, you may have another chance. Go try again. It's like a therapist, right? The first time you go to therapy, I don't need a therapist. But then the second, and it takes a second. You have to find somebody that, you have to find your group of people. So, I would say just try it for a minute, tell the truth. Because it takes a second to tell the truth, right? Whenever a new forum starts, it's like, well, I just sold my company for $10 million and my valuation is $100 million. And that's very intimidating. And then you try and match that. And then you realize that you're trying to match it, and that's not the right thing to do. So maybe everyone drop down. Let's tell the truth. And in about 6 months, you kind of really get to the good stuff, I think.
Yeah.
So it takes a second.
Jennifer, thank you for joining us
Absolutely.
today.
Thank you for having me. This has been so fun.
Guys, if you and gals, if you are in Nashville, an entrepreneur, and you are going this road all alone, there is a community. There's a tribe of people here in Nashville of 350 great entrepreneurs who get together and share best practices through experience share and really have a good time through this entrepreneurial journey. If you are interested, you can visit eonashville.com. We'd love to have you visit. Thanks for watching and have a fantastic rest of your week.
Thanks for listening to the Decision Podcast by Nashville EO. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.